Damien stepped off the private elevator onto the shining marble floor. Twinkling chandeliers and swirling laughter rose from the adjacent rooms, while waitstaff balanced trays of gleaming champagne flutes. This was the weekly poolside party thrown by the city's elite, a swirl of glittering dresses, sharp tuxedos, and dazzlingly elaborate swimsuits. He passed an enormous gold-framed mirror and sourly noted his own reflection. A middle-aged man with impeccably groomed hair, somewhat stiff posture, and pricey designer shoes that pinched at the toes. He sighed. What was extravagance without comfort? Yet the look was essential if he wanted to blend in, especially tonight. For Damien was no ordinary partygoer. He was a Selkie, sworn to protect his clan's hidden ways, and tonight he hunted for something precious stolen from them, the pelts of his kin. From the rooftop edge, the city skyline glittered like 1,000 burning stars. The high-rises dominated everything below, with illuminated signs flashing their advertisements across dark windows. The cool breeze tumbled through Damien's hair, and he closed his eyes for a moment, letting the night's sea scent drift up from the harbour far beneath the towering spires. This place was a concrete jungle, far from the coastal cliffs of his birthland. But it was here that the clan had tracked the stolen pelts. Rumour had it that unscrupulous collectors paid large sums for a Selkie's fur, believing it could bring good luck, or worse, bestow the power to command the ocean itself. When he opened his eyes, he caught sight of a slender woman slipping through the party's crowd, a short silver dress ruffled in the warm breeze, sparking with threads of luminescent thread that reminded him of moonlight on salt water. Nessa, he recognized, adjusting her diamond earrings subtly. Another Selkie on the same mission. She offered a nod as she passed, her gaze scanning the throng of socialites for a clue, a whispered rumor, or a sign someone had the contraband. A few other clan members were scattered like that, each hidden behind human glamour or illusions, carefully disguised as anonymous acquaintances or plus ones. Across the gold-flecked tile, a large, lavish pool shimmered under colored spotlights. Flora arrangements and glass sculptures decorated the edges, and at the far corner, an elevated dais rose near a rolling bar. The party's host had promised a big announcement tonight, something to do with a new philanthropic endeavor. The crowd, happily tipsy on top-shelf spirits, gathered around the dais, waiting to hear the toast. Damien slipped around the edges of the group, delicately weaving between couples, swaying to the live saxophone music. He feigned interest in the swirling notes, but his ears stayed sharp for any mention of fur, auctions, or hidden rooms. He paused near a small group of hedge fund managers, bragging about their latest conquests. They dropped the names of the city's biggest penthouse owners like they were chatting about who had the best garden party. Damien's heart pounded as he caught a snippet, a rumor about a certain collector who specialized in exotic wares. The men laughed, swirling their glasses. "I hear he's in possession of seal skins," one boasted. "Rare ones. Even saw them in a hidden safe once. A friend told me," they guffawed, brushing it off as a tall tale. But Damien's stomach churned. His clan's entire way of life hinged upon the secrecy and safety of their pelts. This was no trivial rumor. He casually drifted away before the men noticed him eavesdropping. Edging around the dance floor, he found the hallway leading to the private suites. A bouncer stood at the entrance, broad-shouldered and wearing a suit that couldn't hide the muscle definition beneath. Damien feigned searching for the restroom, but the bouncer tapped an earpiece and shook his head. No one was passing this point. Given the formidable security detail, the rest of the clan would have to infiltrate differently. Damien slipped back into the crowd, frustration welling in his chest. It would take cunning, and maybe a little bit of the Selkies' magical persuasion to get past that blockade. He spotted Nessa again, this time leaning conspiratorially toward a young woman who, from her body language, seemed enthralled by Nessa's attention. A soft glow emanated from Nessa's clasped hands, barely noticeable in the sea of glitter, but Damien recognized the subtle shimmer of a Selkie's enchantment. If this guest wielded influence or a keycard, it might be Nessa's opportunity to gain access. Damien decided not to interrupt, letting Nessa carry on her flirtation. Perhaps she'd glean some crucial intel. Meanwhile, he set his sights on another opportunity. An older woman in a velvet evening gown, wearing a set of pearls that had likely cost more than any modest house. She seemed bored, fiddling with her multicolored cocktail, eyes drifting across the party. An air of dissatisfaction clung to her, suggesting that she might be open to an entertaining conversation. Damien approached with confidence, his aura projecting the easy charm expected in high society circles. "I couldn't help but notice you standing here without company," he said, offering her a gentle smile. "Surely that's not by choice." She studied him over the rim of her glass. "Who's to say it isn't?" Her voice carried a slight accent that he couldn't place, yet the challenge in her gaze was tempered by curiosity. "You're quite bald." "I've been told," he replied. "Forgive me if it's unwelcome." She chuckled, letting the tension crack. "It's fine. I'm Monica Tesoro, and you are—" "Damien Flynn," he said, smoothly. "Delighted to make your acquaintance. You seem like someone who knows what's really going on in rooms like these." Monica looked at him sharply, but her lips curled into a faint smile. Maybe I do, though knowledge isn't free." She toyed with her pearls. Damien cast a quick glance around to ensure no one was eavesdropping before leaning closer. "I've been hearing rumors about a collector in one of these penthouses, something about special skins." He watched her face shift, a flicker of recognition quickly hidden. Any truth to that? Her eyes danced over the crowd, perhaps weighing if she wished to share. Eventually, she lowered her voice. "A certain Mr. Schultz has shown off such items at small exclusive gatherings, though I haven't seen them myself. I know that many desire those relics. What would a handsome fellow like you want with them?" He feigned nonchalance. "Just an interest in the bazaar. Perhaps I'm a collector myself. Then you might want to check out the upper floors." "But you didn't hear it from me." Monica took a deep sip of her cocktail, a final punctuation to the conversation. Damien thanked her with a gracious bow of his head, stepping away with the knowledge he'd gained. He didn't want to arouse suspicion by lingering too long. Outside, the band began a new, lively tune. Colored lights danced across the pool, where well-dressed men and women splashed and laughed, their voices echoing into the night. At the dais, the host, a real estate mogul with slicked-back hair, prepared to take the microphone. Damien drifted toward the shadows, ducking behind a palm tree in a massive terracotta pot to blend into the background. He keyed into his phone, sending a coded message to the cluster of Selkies scattered around the party. "Focus on Schultz, level 73 penthouse." Several other clan members, disguised in impeccable suits and dresses, had already begun maneuvering swiftly. Nessa and two others positioned themselves near the restroom corridor, where they might intercept Mr. Schultz if he decided to slip away. Damien hoped one of them could cast a subtle glamour, enough to cause the bodyguards to wave them through. All they needed was the tiniest window of opportunity. Before the host's speech concluded, a short, portly man emerged from behind the dais. He wore a crisp white suit and carried a sense of arrogance, strolling among the guests as if bored with the entire affair. His ring-laden fingers gestured impatiently to a pair of bulky security men who parted the crowd with professional efficiency. Damien recognized the air of wealth, but this man carried something more, a smugness that suggested a sense of ownership way beyond the norm. Could he be Schultz? The answer came as one of the security men tapped an earpiece and announced quietly, "Mr. Schultz, your helicopter is waiting. Shall we depart now or wait for the host's speech to finish?" Schultz flicked a dismissive hand toward the dais. "I've heard his philanthropic spiel 100 times. Let's make our exit. I have an appointment to keep." Damien's heart raced. If Schultz left now, the chance to sneak into his penthouse stash might vanish. But maybe this departure was exactly the opening the clan needed. As Schultz and his guards swept toward the elevator, Damien tapped out another coded message. The plan was to corner one of Schultz's staffers who might remain behind. Either that, or they had to slip into the penthouse before the security detail locked it down. Nessa, noticing the movement, carefully trailed after them. Damien took a different route, gliding around the pool's perimeter. The musical performance concluded, and the party broke into scattered applause, with the host stepping down to mingle. The security staff had thinned near the restricted hallway, presumably pulled to escort Mr. Schultz. This was the moment. With the poker face of an experienced socialite, Damien brushed past the velvet rope and slipped into the hallway. Only a single guard stood there now, distracted by his phone. A slight shimmer passed over Damien's eyes as he invoked a mild Selkie enchantment, letting the watery glamour fill his voice. "Excuse me," he murmured, projecting innocence. "I think your boss needed you outside. He seemed pretty upset." The guard blinked, unsettled by the magic, then jogged off without a second question. Damien advanced briskly down the corridor. The walls were lined with abstract art pieces, likely purchased at staggering prices. But he felt more drawn to a single door at the corridor's end. Locked, certainly, but not beyond a Selkie's cunning to open. He pressed his ear to the door, hearing no movement. Slipping a slim instrument from his pocket, he jiggled and twisted the lock, employing a bit of magic and a bit of urban skill he'd learned from clan members who had grown up cycling between both worlds. The lock gave, revealing a private elevator. He stepped inside. The panel indicated it led to the higher penthouses, as well as some sub-basement floors. He punched in 73, hoping it matched the intel. With a jolt, the elevator began to ascend. When it stopped, the doors parted to reveal a dimly lit foyer, all black marble and silver fixtures. A floor-to-ceiling window stretched across one side, overlooking the city's sprawl. Damien's chest tightened. This was the seat of Schultz's power, so it was likely heavily monitored. If he wasn't careful, alarm systems or cameras might alert someone to his presence. He edged forward, scanning the corners for blinking red lights or hidden sensors. Sure enough, a sleek security camera perched in the ceiling's corner. He breathed out, letting a gentle wave of magic seep into the air. Selkies were masters of illusions and subtle suggestions, and modern technology wasn't necessarily immune to mystical interference. Still, it required gentleness. Flooding a camera with illusions might cause suspicious static. He cast a faint shimmer to disguise his presence, hoping it would show nothing more than a slight flicker. The camera's lens continued its slow pivot, but no alarm rang out. Ahead, a corridor branched in two directions, each lined with identical black doors. Damien closed his eyes, trying to sense the presence of the Pelts. Selkies shared a connection to their skins. If they weren't wearing them, they could sometimes detect them if close enough, like a faint echo of themselves. He inhaled, searching for that intangible hum in the back of his mind. A gentle pull nudged him to the left. He followed that signal, passing 3 doors before stopping at a double set with columns on either side. The doorknobs were shaped like roaring sea lions, ironically enough. Another twist of the lockpick, another wave of quiet Selkie magic, and the door swung open. A hush engulfed him as he stepped inside. Polished floors, high ceilings, tall windows with motorized drapes. This was likely Schultz's lounge or study. Rows of bizarre antiques lined glass cases, embroidered fans from centuries ago, exotic stones rumored to carry magical properties, carved bone tusks in elaborate shapes. Damien shuddered at the array of items, each an artifact whose origins he could only guess. Then in a corner he spotted a large mahogany cabinet with ornate carvings of ocean waves along its A lock sealed the cabinet's doors. He approached, breathing shallowly. If the stolen pelts were anywhere in the penthouse, they'd be in that locked cabinet. Trying to remain calm, he knelt down and gently tested the handle. This lock put up more resistance, but eventually, with a practiced snap of metal, the latch yielded. Pulling the doors open, Damien stifled a cry. There they were, 3 distinct fur pelts, folded neatly. The dull brown patterns matched the Celtic lineage of his clan. The sight ripped his heart in two. The pelts exuded the faint glow of forcibly severed magic. He stroked one gingerly, feeling the familial weight of a lost cousin, sister, or child. Selkies required these pelts to transform, to return to their oceanic roots. Robbed of them, a Selkie was half a person, weighed down by a phantom ache. He reached in, gently lifting one pelt. Almost instantly, a thunderous clatter came from behind. Damien spun to see Nessa pushing open the lounge door, panting. "We have to hurry," she hissed. "The cameras must picked up something. Schultz's men are on their way." Another Selkie followed her inside, a wiry, short man named Kia carrying a small satchel. He quickly handed it to Damien. "Put them in here," Kia urged. Damien carefully slid the pelts into the satchel, his mind swarming with concern for how to slip away unnoticed. Their illusions were subtle, but if the guards were already coming, they might not have time to cloak themselves effectively, especially if armed men arrived in force. One bullet might not kill a Selkie outright in their true form, but here, in this environment, they were vulnerable. Nessa scanned the room, panic flashing across her face. "They're tracking movement in the elevator. We need another exit." She gestured to a metallic door off to the side. They rushed to it, discovering a private staircase leading down a few floors. A swirl of footsteps echoed from the lounge hallway. Damien, Nessa, and Kia dashed down the spiral steps, the satchel bumping against Damien's side. Adrenaline thrummed in their veins as they heard muffled shouts, Sekard calling out, someone ordering them to sweep every room. The Selkies couldn't let themselves get cornered. They emerged on the 72nd floor into a lavish corridor with modern art along the walls. Damien closed the stairwell door quietly, but the footsteps behind them drew closer. They had only seconds. Nessa spotted a door marked with discreet signage, likely leading into another penthouse, but it was locked, and she had no time to pick it. Then, Kier, eyes darting for options, pointed to a large housekeeping trolley left by an open service closet. A plan formed with silent glances, illusions to blend them inside. Hope the guards rushed past and then find a safer route later. They squeezed themselves into the closet's shadows, draping an illusory effect around them that bent the eye away. The footsteps thundered up, shouting back and forth. "Check the stairs," barked a voice. Another responded, "Nothing yet." After what felt like an eternity, the tension eased. Damien heard them move farther down the corridor, their voices echoing until it was quiet again. Slowly, the Selkies peeled away the illusions and emerged. They all exhaled in relief. "We can't just walk out the front door. We're probably on every watch list now," Kier noted grimly. "We need another exit, maybe a rooftop or a side elevator that leads to the loading dock." Checking his phone, he added, "I think some of the clan are still down at the party. They can cause a distraction or hail us a safe ride." Nessa nodded, retrieving a phone from her clutch. "We'll have them stage an emergency at the pool level. That might divert enough security." She typed furiously. Then she paused, looking at Damien. "You have the pelts?" He patted the satchel. "Safe. We need to find the rightful owners. I can sense them calling for the ocean, even through the leather bag." A few minutes later, an alarm blared from far below, echoing up the stairwell. Voices erupted through the floors as staff and guests began to panic. The plan was in motion. Squeezing back into the staircase, the trio raced downward, each step feeling precarious. On lower floors, they heard commotion, a gaggle of partygoers rushing around, uncertain if there was a fire or some other threat. The Selkies used the chaos to blend among them, slipping seamlessly back into the swirl of evening gowns and suits. Nessa flicked her hair, as though she were just another guest, unsettled by the panic. Kier tried to lead them in a calm, purposeful shuffle away from security. Meanwhile, Damien clutched the satchel close, the stolen fur pressed protectively to his chest. They reached the ground-level lobby where a grand spectacle was unfolding. Security barked orders at guests, urging them to remain calm and stay put until the source of the alarm was confirmed. In the confusion, few noticed 3 nondescript individuals darting through a side corridor. It led to a small exit typically used by caterers. They burst onto a street behind the building, panting in the stifling summer night's air. Delivery trucks idled there, and the mechanical hum of the city vibrated along the alley's brick walls. No sign of immediate surveillance. Damien spotted one of their clan's vehicles, a sleek black sedan parked inconspicuously. His phone vibrated. A message from Marisol, another Selkie who specialized in forging fake plates and identities. She'd left the car for them with the keys tucked under the front seat. Damien slid into the driver's seat, Nessa and Kia jumping in the back. The door slammed shut, sealing them away from the alley's stale air. They exchanged relieved glances. They'd managed it. They had reclaimed at least a few stolen pelts. The roads were busy with nightlife traffic, limos edging past cabs, rideshares picking up partygoers. Damien took side streets to evading any pursuit. After driving some distance, they arrived at a discreet waterfront storage facility. Floodlights illuminated shipping containers, and the smell of brine drifted over from the black ocean waters. This place was well known to the clan, a hidden refuge in the labyrinth of cargo containers and rusting cranes. By day, it was an unremarkable hub for goods. By night, it could shelter those who needed secrecy. Stepping from the car, they made their way behind a row of stacked containers. Marisol emerged from the shadows, her sharp eyes flickering in relief at the sight of them. Several other Selkies waited there, forming a small circle by the water's edge. They parted to reveal 3 anxious figures, men and women who had lost their pelts months ago. Their longing was etched into every line of their faces. The clan had tried to help them cope, but a Selkie without a pelt was like a bird with clipped wings. Hope sparked in their eyes the moment they saw the satchel. Damien opened it reverently. Raising the first fur into the moonlight was heartbreaking. The stolen pelt seemed drained of life, but as soon as the rightful owner rushed forward to claim it, a soft shimmer rippled across the fur. The bond recognized its master. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she embraced the pelt, pressing her face to its coarse texture. A wave of magic swelled as the ocean recognized its child. The second and third furs found their rightful keepers, prompting a hush of comfort and gratitude to rise within the group. For a time they stood there in silence, the only movement the gentle surge of waves against the pier. The newly reunited Selkies clung to their skins, tears shining in the moonlight. Damien remembered his own moment of liberation decades ago when he first discovered his pelt's significance. He yielded a nod to Nessa, Kia, and Marisol, each of them filled with pride. Yet the victory felt partial. They had retrieved only 3. Rumors abounded that Schultz possessed more. Perhaps he kept them in other penthouses, or had sold them to unscrupulous buyers across the city. While the grateful tears of the Selkies, reunited with their pelts, were an undeniable source of joy, it was tempered by the knowledge of how many more might still be captive. A single stolen pelt could wreck a life. Some Selkies might never be found or freed. "Next time we'll get them all," Damien said quietly, almost as a vow. "One raid doesn't break a ring. We have to go deeper." Marisol set a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Easy, Will. Tonight was just the beginning. The clan is strong, and we have allies." Nessa's gaze lingered over the waves, reflecting city lights. "We can't hide in the sea anymore, not while our kin's skins are displayed like trophies at these glitzy penthouses. We must push further and reclaim what's ours." Kia exhaled softly, glancing at the tearful reunions. "At least we gave some families a reason to hope." In the distance, police sirens blared. It could have been any routine crime, or the authorities might be searching for intruders who had bypassed penthouse security. The city's existence was a tangled knot of secrets and illusions, from the shimmering towers down to the harbor's brackish depths. Under those sirens, the clan huddled closer. Soon, The newly freed Selkies would slip into the bay, reacquainting themselves with the comforting embrace of the ocean. Their illusions dropped, allowing their sleek fur to shimmer in the moonlight as they transformed and vanished into the dark waters. No paparazzi lens or security camera would catch them. Damien watched them go, feeling a surge of warmth. Tonight, they had been successful, but the fight raged on. Schultz remained at large, and he'd surely noticed that his precious cabinet was missing its greatest treasures. The man had connections in places of power, and he'd likely devote his resources to hunting the Clin in retaliation. The high society world might be a labyrinth of rooftops and parties, but it was also infested with unscrupulous collectors. The Selkies would have to adapt, forging new plans, creating new disguises, and infiltrating deeper pockets of the upper crust. He turned to Nessa with a solemn nod. "We need to regroup, figure out the next move. This was just one ring of the operation. If Schultz is so brazen, he won't stop." "Unless we stop him." "Agreed," Nessa replied, tugging the edges of her borrowed coat closer. The glimmer of excitement mixed with determination in her eyes. "Next time, we'll focus on the real stash, and we'll do it so there's no doubt. The Pelts belong to us, not in some twisted museum of stolen magic." Together, they climbed back into the sedan. The rest of the clan dispersed, some diving into the harbor's dark waters, others returning to hidden enclaves scattered around the city. Rain began to fall, droplets peppering the windshield as Damien turned the key and guided the car along the deserted docks toward the main road. He couldn't help but glance at the silhouette of Thomas Schultz's high-rise, its glowing penthouse lights barely visible from this angle. Inside that gleaming tower, cunning men and women hoarded fortunes, artifacts, and secrets. But the Selkies, too, had their secrets. They had proven they weren't helpless mythical creatures, easily caged. They would band together, forging alliances with other hidden beings across the metropolis if necessary. No matter how many pool parties they needed to crash, or how many illusions they had to spin, they would reclaim every stolen pelt, and in doing so, they would remind the city that the ocean's children were not mere curiosities for the wealthy to collect. As the car merged onto a winding city street, the rising skywash of neon reflected in puddles on the asphalt. Damien slowed at a red light, letting the gloom of the evening settle in. The city was a labyrinth, but Selkies knew about mysteries held behind quiet waves. Darkness was only a veil, a watery tapestry waiting to be parted, and from the edges, from the rooftops, from the clandestine halls of the mighty, they would carry out their quiet, unstoppable hunt. Nessa reached over, switched off the car's overhead light, and locked eyes with Damien. "Until we free them all," she whispered. Damien nodded, pressing the gas pedal as the signal turned green. The engine purred as they sped off, vanishing into the electric glow of skyscrapers. There was work to be done before dawn. A new list to compile, addresses to confirm, and allies to recruit. Pool parties and penthouse hideaways were but the stage for a bigger battle. The city might never know whose shapes moved through the rain-slicked avenues that night, but among the clan, hope shimmered like pearls in the moonlit sea. And so they drove on, prepared to reclaim what was stolen, one pelt at a time.